Minglawa, welcome to Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. We've got the latest news and reports. As far as natural disasters are concerned, it's good to have some knowledge on the danger of earthquakes in Myanmar. And as the world waits and watches, the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus outbreak sees a steady drop. And as a story coverage on the inauguration ceremonies of Bogyoke bronze statues in Nay Pyi Taw and Yangon. And the last report on Color Poetry, Poets Art 2020. We'll get to the reports in a while, but before that, let's take a look at the local news. Working groups of the government and nationwide ceasefire agreement signatories, ethnic armed organizations, held a coordination meeting on implementing the decisions made at the 8th Joint Implementation Coordination meeting, Monday. NRPC Vice Chairman, Union Attorney General U Tuntun U, said negotiators from both sides have met at the NRPC on the 2nd and 3rd of February to continue implementation of the decisions made at the 8th JICM. He added that the current meeting aims to review the agreements made in implementing the NCA preceding levels of processes and implementation post-2020, and proposals to establish a republic based on democracy and a federal system, and said he hoped attendees would reassess the proposals made by both sides and make any necessary improvements. In addition, the Union Attorney General said discussions must decide on what kinds of agreements should be designated in implementation processes and NCA pledges, and that they must debate fundamental political values, strengthening ceasefire, security, reconciliation, and create trust and stability. The first Myanmar-Poland Foreign Office Consultations was held Monday at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nay Pyi Taw. The meeting was co-chaired by U So-han, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Vice Minister, Under-Secretary of State of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Marcin Prasdak. During the meeting, the two sides cordially exchanged views on the promotion of bilateral relations and to expand cooperation in various sectors, including health, culture, tourism, trade, and investment. The two sides also discussed the possibility of visa exemption for the holders of diplomatic and official passports between the two countries. The Permanent Secretary also appraised the Myanmar government's priorities and ongoing efforts for economic reforms, peace and national reconciliation, and recent developments of Rakhine State. They also exchanged views on regional and international issues of mutual interest. Since 26 February 2008, the National Health Laboratory has been recognized by the World Health Organization as a national flu center and conducts tests on flu and respiratory viruses and assists in surveillance and treatment of communicable respiratory viruses. The NHL has been working hard to analyze the COVID-19 acute respiratory disease in Myanmar since it began spreading in China. While the NHL had the experts and machinery it needed, it continued to acquire other necessary lab equipment. NHL received the lab equipment from Thailand's Armed Forces Research Institute of Medical Science through WHO and from Japan's National Institute of Infectious Diseases, National Center for Global Health and Medicine, and Jutendo University through the Japanese Embassy and JICA. Currently, NHL runs lab tests on samples from patients for signs of COVID-19 together with WHO's designated laboratory, and they both have produced consistent results. Thus, NHL will begin running independent lab tests on the 20th of February. That's all with the local news, and here's the first report on Myanmar Today. Myanmar is very much vulnerable to the hazards of a natural disaster, such as earthquakes, but most of the people are not well aware of the preventive measures regarding this natural hazard. Therefore, with the aim to help people understand the preventive measures they need to know, the Department of Disaster Management is undertaking awareness-spreading programs with the help of other organizations. Williamson will tell us more.
Myanmar, lying in a major seismic fault, is indeed earthquake-prone and is vulnerable to hazards from moderate and large magnitude earthquakes, including the tsunami along with its coastal areas. With very less preventive measures adopted by the people, the danger of earthquake is a threat which the people must be well aware. Therefore, with the aim to spread the awareness of the earthquake hazards, the Disaster Management Department, with the collaboration of other organizations, is undertaking the project where it will teach the people how to protect themselves in time of earthquake. This awareness program will cover several townships across Yangon. Dr. La Aung is the patron of Myanmar Earthquake Committee, who has been involving in studying and spreading the awareness to the public on the danger of earthquake and what we need to do to protect ourselves. Speaking on how vulnerable Yangon to earthquake, Dr. La Aung said,
Geographically, Yangon is not only consists of alluvial earth, but most of the area consists of alluvial earth, which is earthquake fault line underneath. Many of the townships, including Dala, Ogalapa, Dako, North, South and East, Along, Insei, Jiminai and Sanjiao have alluvial earth, but the middle part of the Yangon has anticlined, which is prone to earthquake. According to the data of the last earthquake, which occurred in last November, the impact was obviously felt in the east and west part of the Yangon, which consists mostly of morass ground. But the epicenter of the earthquake is located in Dala, on the other side of Yangon River. If the location is mostly consists of morass ground, then the impact is high. But if the location consists mostly of rocks, then the impact is less felt. So, Yangon is most consists of morass ground. It is quite vulnerable to the earthquake hazard.
The active fault studies, upgrade and newly installation of seismic station, networks, public awareness and curriculum development, building code development and technical training programs are prior requirements in the country. Myanmar Earthquake Committee has developed a seismic zone map of Myanmar in deterministic approach in 2006 for the sake of providing general information for the users with various purposes and public information. Technical development is needed for the completeness of the next generation of seismic zone map of Myanmar, which is to be incorporated in building code, which in turn requires researches and findings on the tectonics of Myanmar. Dr. Ta Aung also spoke on the recurrence of earthquakes, and she said,
We cannot predict the earthquake, but if the number of earthquakes occurring is quite frequent, we need to be very much cautious and prepare for any possible earthquake. After many years of research work and studies, it is only land earthquake is almost impossible to predict. But the important thing is we must prepare well beforehand. The rescue work is carried out only after the earthquake, which is very much important.
And according to the report by Myanmar Earthquake Committee, most of the people are not well aware of the danger posed by the earthquake in Myanmar. As most of the people are basic income families, the struggle for earning their livelihood is more important than other welfares. Many of the buildings in Yangon are also prone to the earthquake, but it is not easy for everyone to follow the guidelines of earthquake preventive measures in the construction of the buildings because they have to spend extra money on it. According to the present condition of the people, they are willing to plan a short-term preventive measures for the earthquake, but it is still hard to convince the people to plan for a long time preventive measures, according to Dr. La Aung. This is Willinson for MI Radio.
That's a report on the danger of earthquakes in Myanmar. All right, we'll carry on with the next report on the coronavirus outbreak here on Myanmar Today. Authorities in China are tightening curbs on movement to combat the outbreak of coronavirus. Data show that the outbreak speed has declined over the last 13 days. However, people in Wuhan still face tightened restrictions on travel and commute. For more on the latest updates, our reporters reached out to a CRI reporter in Wuhan.
Authorities in China are tightening curbs on movement to combat the outbreak. People in the province of 60 million have been ordered to stay indoors, though they will be allowed to leave in an emergency. The decline in confirmed cases has started since February 3rd, highlighting that the preventative measures and the control efforts are effective. For more on the latest update on the coronavirus outbreak, the day-to-day life across the country during the outbreak period, MI Radio reached out to Ms. Huan Yue, the China Radio International reporter covering the outbreak news in Wuhan.
According to the National Health Commission, the number of new coronavirus cases confirmed in China outside of Hubei province has declined for 13 consecutive days since February the 3rd. The ratios of severe to confirmed cases of the coronavirus have decreased significantly in China, including Hubei province and its capital city Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak. The ratio in Wuhan city reached its peak of 32.4% on January the 28th, and it dropped to 21.6% on February the 15th. This data shows the prevention and control work has been effective. While Hubei province, the center of the novel coronavirus outbreak, announced Sunday a slew of wide-ranging and more stringent measures to control the epidemic.
The Universal Studios Beijing theme park is expected to open to the public in May 2021 as scheduled, despite the current coronavirus outbreak, a Beijing municipal official told a news briefing. Construction of the theme park, the fifth such Universal Studios park in the world, is expected to be completed by the end of 2020. Hubei province bans vehicle traffic to curb spread of the coronavirus. The government of Hubei province, the center of China's coronavirus outbreak, said a ban will be imposed on vehicle traffic across the province to curb the spread of the virus. In a published document, it said police cars, ambulances, vehicles carrying essential goods or other vehicles related to public service would be exempted. It added that the province will carry out regular health checks on all residents in the province. It also stated that companies cannot resume work without first receiving permission from the government.
According to a circular issued by the provincial government, the measures include enforcing province-wide traffic restrictions on all non-emergency vehicles and closing all non-essential public venues. The circular said the measures came as the province is at a critical stage to control the epidemic and the situation remains grave. According to the circular, the health screening campaign should be strengthened and no one should be missed. Once any resident shows symptoms such as fever or coughing, the situation should be immediately reported to the local community or village. And 4 categories of people, namely patients confirmed or suspected to be infected with the virus, their close contacts, and patients with fever, should be timely treated or placed in quarantine instead of self-isolation at home. Also, companies should not resume production unless allowed by local epidemic prevention authorities, and those that have already resumed work, including public institutions, industrial parks, and companies, should follow strict virus prevention measures.
Most new cases and deaths have been reported in Wuhan, Hubei's largest city. Authorities are tightening curbs on movement to combat the outbreak. In addition, a single person from each household is allowed to leave the building every 3 days to buy food and essential items. On house and estates, one entrance will be kept open. It will be guarded to ensure that only residents can enter or leave. All businesses will stay closed except chemists, hotels, food shops, and medical services. Coronavirus infections reached 68,500 in China. The death toll from a coronavirus outbreak in mainland China has reached 1,665 as of the end of the Saturday, up by 142 from the previous day, the country's National Health Commission said. Across mainland China, there were 2,009 new confirmed infections on Saturday. The figure amounts to a drop in new cases for the 3rd straight day.
That's a report on the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus outbreak seeing a steady drop. Stay with us as we bring you more reports on Myanmar Today. The inauguration ceremonies of Bogyoke bronze statues marking the 105th Bogyoke's birthday were held in Nay Pyi Taw, Lain Thaya, and Dagong Myothit South in Yangon on a grand scale on the 13th of February. The opening ceremony of the bronze statue in the form of Bogyoke Aung San riding a horse took place at the Yangon roundabout in Nay Pyi Taw in the morning, attended by President Wu Mien. In his opening speech, President Wu Mien said the government is striving for the implementation of the dream national martyr leader Bogyoke Aung San and ethnic leaders had. Pietain and Zayamo report.
The inauguration ceremonies of Bogyoke bronze statues marking the 105th Bogyoke's birthday were held in Nay Pyi Taw, Laing Taya and Takomudik Sot in Yangon on a grand scale on 13 February. The opening ceremony of the bronze statue in form of Bogyoke Aung San riding horse took place at the Yangon roundabout in Nay Pyi Taw in the morning of 13 February, attended by President Wu Mien, and the inauguration ceremony followed. In his opening speech at the inauguration ceremony, President Wu Mien said the government is striving for the implementation of the dream national martyr leader Bogyoke Aung San and ethnic leaders had. The similar opening ceremonies of Bogyoke bronze statues marking the 105th birthday of Bogyoke Aung San were held in Laing Taya and Takomudik Sot in Yangon, attended by Yangon Chief Minister U Phyo Min Thay, local representatives, and the town elders as well as the residents. Yangon Chief Minister U Phyo Min Thay spoke to Myanmar Radio the purpose of holding the opening ceremony of Bogyoke bronze statues to mark the 105th birthday of General Aung San meant that the people recognize Bogyoke Aung San as the guiding star of the Union, the father of independence, father of Tamadol, who established Myanmar Tamadol. U Phyo Min Thay, Chief Minister for Yangon region, said,
All stakeholders strove for the full independence under the leadership of Bogyoke Aung San, who was far-sighted. This move should make Bogyoke Aung San and ethnic leaders sign Penlong Agreement. The erection of Bogyoke Aung San bronze statue is aimed at next generation youth to be aware of the sacrifice Bogyoke made for the state. Now, with the leadership of State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, the government is in the process of making reforms within the country. Now is also the time for the country to keep on trying for the establishment of democracy federal union through 21st century Penlong Conference.
Bogyoke Aung Sanကိုနမူနာပြုပြီးနောက်မျိုးဆက်တွေကိုလက်ဆင့်ကမ်းပေးနိုင်ဖို့အတွက်အခုလိုအထိမ့်မှရုပ်ထုတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့တည်ဆောက်နေတာပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်
Moreover, the voices of local representatives and the residents regarding the emergence of Bogyoke Aung San bronze statues were heard. Unyinyi, Yangon region local representative, chairman of Bogyoke bronze statue organizing committee of Takomudik Sot, said,
We have aims to unveil Bogyoke bronze statue. The main aim is the next generation youths have to know perspective, ideologies, spirits, and policies of Bogyoke. We have made efforts to do this since 2015. Our efforts have continued up to 2020. We had to try for this 5 years. With the contribution of the friends, those who love Bogyoke and the people our dream came true.
U Tinley, resident of Takomudik Sot, said,
We are very delighted with the emergence of Bogyoke bronze statue in our township. It has been a long time for us to wait for this. We were taught about General Aung San during our childhood. We are glad and we take pride. New generation youth need to know the noble spirit of Bogyoke Aung San. Really, General Aung San is a role model for new generation youth. It is very important that next generation youth cultivate the morality of Bogyoke. For that reason, we always tell you to cultivate. Most of the children have come to know about the sacrifice and noble effort of Bogyoke.
charity feast of White Peace Anand's Nambia, and funfair to mark the 105th birthday of Bogyoke Aung San, which fall on 13 February, were held on a grand scale across the country.
That's a report on the inauguration ceremonies of Bogyoke bronze statues in Nay Pyi Taw and Yangon. And here's the last report on Color Poetry, Poets Art 2020. With a motive to express poetic way of art, the Color Poetry Poets Art has been held at Alate Gallery from the 14th of February to the 18th of February. The art show consists of 15 well-known poets and artists. David Henry has the details.
Poetry and art always complement each other. Even though it may not obey the same rules and law, both come from the inner heart and the feelings of the creator. As soon as I heard about this exhibition, Color Poetry, I was amazed by the concept of it, where the art has been drawn by the poets. With that said, I have asked one of the well-known poets as well as an artist, Siatisani, about the details of the Color Poetry.
For me, I have been drawing as a hobby, and it's a kind of normal thing for me now to draw what I feel and express it. This art show is special as the artists are the poets. You can see the new perspective of how poems translate into art and how it complements each other. In this show, I have painted Myanmar traditional Angek actress dancing in quite different styles and color. The medium that uses for the painting is pastel, and the art style can be called realism. As this color poetry is the fourth time now, I'm still reminiscing our first year of the poets' collaboration. With all those meanings that I have stated, we have given the name Color Poetry Poets Art.
Siatisani also added on to why poem and art is parallel to each other and how it complements each other.
As everyone already knows, poems is an art in which is constructed by words, whereas an art is constructed by colors. In my perspective, art is a poetic scene which the words have been translated into colors and picture, whereas the poem is the word play in which the colors, lines, and picture simplify. Both are closely linked to one another, that they usually walk hand in hand. However, when you consider the definitions of the words, the distinction emerges. Purpose deals with the poem's intended use and result, while meaning deals with the poem's content and message.
In this art show, Umingonai also participated as his passion for painting has been strong as time passes. He has constantly been focusing on supporting the future of our country by giving speech in the universities and schools. With that said, let's hear out his perspective and emotions that he has put in his art.
Participating in the art show is the dream for me. As I am the son of artists, I'm always in touch with arts and painting. Since I was young, I told myself that one day I will participate in an art show like this. But as my life curves into what it has been, I had doubt myself and my life. With all those passionate thoughts, I have ever drawn some in the prison with charcoal and bricks. As there was no one to see my drawings at the time, if compared to now, I'm really happy to even see a few people interested in my art.
Umingonai also told MR Radio how he understands art.
I
believe art is a language that everyone can understand. Even though there may be different presentations and art style going on each individual, we could still see what that person is thinking if we give time on a piece of art. Art is versatile, and it is endless possibility, which for me is one of the most beautiful perks of art. You might realize that kids express their feelings through art, even if they can't speak with their mouth yet. Isn't it adorable?
ကျွန်တော်သွားပြီးဆွေးနွေးဟောပြောတာတွေလုပ်နေတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့အနာဂတ်အတွက်ပြင်ဆင်ကြဖို့ပါကျွန်တော်တို့ဘာလုပ်ကြမလဲကဘာကြီးကဘာတွေလုပ်နေပြီလဲသူတို့နဲ့ရွယ်သူတွေဘယ်လိုအကျင့်နေကြည့်နေကြပြီလဲဒါတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ဆွေးနွေးတာပါ
Reporter David Tanner reporting from Myanmar International Radio.
That's all the reports on Myanmar Today. Now, let's keep up with the world and take a turn to some international news. The novel coronavirus is proving that racism is alive and well. Scroll down your social media feeds or browse through news headlines and it's evident that the outbreak is bringing out the worst in some. Instances of discrimination against Asians and people of Asian descent are being reported in the US, Canada, and across the pond. Shops are putting up signs turning away Chinese customers, and an online petition to name the virus Kung Flu has attracted almost 25,000 signatures so far. In this episode of Facts Tell, we explore why anti-Asian sentiment is spreading fast and far amid the new outbreak.
The new coronavirus is spreading fear and concern around the world, and in some places, racism is rearing its ugly head. Chinese people and Asians at large are now perceived as disease carriers by some foreigners, and their dietary habits are on the chopping block. This is not by accident. Some people's anxieties and biases have mischaracterized the outbreak, and misinformation is racializing the virus even more. The outbreak was initially traced back to a seafood market in the city of Wuhan in central China, where some vendors were illegally selling wild animals. Scientists then theorized that the new coronavirus could be linked to bats. Both findings are still inconclusive, but many were quick to put two and two together. Undated clips like these began to make the rounds online, feeding the discourse that Chinese people brought the disease upon themselves. One specific video found infamy. This is Chinese blogger Wang Mengyuan, and she bit into a bat on camera. It was just what some people needed to pin the onset of the outbreak onto Chinese eating practices, even though the clip eventually turned out to be taken out of context. Wang explained that the footage goes back to 2016, and that the bats weren't served in China, but in Palau, a Pacific island country where bat soup is something of a specialty. It's not just misinformation that's fanning the flames of xenophobia. Poor choices of words in the media are also playing a major role. Sensational headlines are associating the outbreak with where it originated from, framing it as a China thing and giving ammo to antagonistic sentiments. These dramatic misnomers are thriving partly because, for the longest time, the disease did not have a proper name. We now know the new coronavirus disease as COVID-19, and having an official designation is a big deal.
Having a name matters to prevent the use of other names that can be inaccurate or stigmatizing.
Damaging information, offensive comments, and clickbait headlines are having real-world consequences. In Italy, Chinese tourists were reportedly spat on. No Chinese signs were put up outside shops in Japan, South Korea, and Vietnam. Over in New York, police are asking for the public's help to identify the man in this alleged subway attack on an Asian woman wearing a mask. It's just a fraction of the numerous documented racial abuse cases and instances of discrimination against Chinese and anyone deemed Chinese-looking since the outbreak. A sobering reminder that racism spreads faster than any virus.
The Cuban government recently announced the shortage of liquefied petroleum gas LPG used mainly for cooking as a result of the US sanctions against the island nation. Following the announcement, many people rushed to gas cylinder dispatch centers, which saw long queues of clients for several days. The official announcement, issued by Cuba Petroleum Oil Company and the Ministry of Energy and Mines, said that the U.S. sanctions aimed at hampering Cuban fuel imports led to the current gas shortage. In order to fill the import gap, authorities imposed restrictions on gas deliveries by cutting delivery times to all state and private customers. Some 1.7 million Cuban households were affected by the fuel shortage. All those families now have to wait long periods of time to get their cooking gas. Many homes in Cuba are not connected by gas pipelines, so residents depend on gas cylinders. Well, that's a wrap, and thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Take good care of your health and remember to wash your hands, practice good hygiene, and drink lots of water. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.